Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is we're outside on my patio here. I'm going to be installing an outdoor Wi-Fi access point out here just to get Wi-Fi while I'm out here on the patio or at the pool, just because we don't get good reception out here, and I'll explain to you in a minute, so stay tuned. So if you've got a newer house, especially ones with the low E windows and the energy efficient windows, these windows are actually impregnated with like a metal or some kind of aluminum to make them energy efficient. The only problem with that is they actually cause a lot of interference with Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi doesn't penetrate this glass as easily as regular walls or just CMU brick. I know this is a big issue because I know in the past on my old house, but when I was outside right next to the window, I would get little to no Wi-Fi reception even though I was right next to the router. So in order for me to make it work out here, I have to install an outdoor access point right up here. So that way we can have signal out here when we're actually using the pool and doing stuff out here. So there's several ways to do the access point. I'm using an Asus AIMESH network. I've already tried to use it wirelessly out here by just plugging something out here wirelessly, but that signal just couldn't penetrate the CMU wall or the glass right here for the house, and I was getting poor reception out here, so I gave up on that. So what I'm gonna have to do is actually put an access point right here, an actual router inside a weatherproof box, and then have a wired backhaul back to the main router, so that way I can relay the signal out here. So in order to get that, you actually have to have an Ethernet cable out here. Originally, I was thinking about hijacking the camera cable right here, home running it back, and then doing like a switch or a router to get the signal on this thing, but I decided just to pull the wire back to the closet, which was a big pain in the ass, and I'll show you what I had to do. All right, for this project, I'm gonna be using this Orbit sprinkler enclosure right here. I've used this in the past for my actual sprinklers and my smart automation stuff that I did outside on another video, but this thing's perfect. It comes with a GFI outlet that we're gonna be using. I'm actually gonna swap this out with a regular outlet because I've already got this on a GFI out there that I'm gonna pull a circuit from so I can save this for another project. But this pretty much, once you get it and you open it up, it has plenty of room inside here. You just need to cut this off right here to free up some more space to mount the router and anything else that we're going to be putting in here. In order to keep this router cool and everything outside, I'm going to go ahead and install these fans right here. I'm going to cut a hole in the door and install 2 of these vents right here that I bought, and I'm going to use this USB thermal trigger right here that you could set to various temperatures from 84, 88, 92, and 96 degrees. It comes with a little sensor and everything that you put inside the box. The purpose of this thing is it will automatically trigger the fan and it won't have to run it 24/7. I did buy some of these little caps right here just to add a few more vents to the top or the back of this enclosure so it can have airflow when this exhaust fans come on. When we mount that router inside of there, I need to extend the actual antenna, so I bought a few of these things to extend the antennas. What I'm going to do is probably inside of here, I'm thinking on the side, I'm going to drill 3 holes for the antennas and just hang them off the side right here, and then use those extensions to plug into the new router. So if you look at this box, it actually comes with 2 knockouts on the bottom here, a 1/2 inch and a 3/4 inch knockout. And we're actually going to mount this thing kind of upside down actually, because if you see the way it goes, the things are here, and I'm actually pulling the wires from the ceiling down into here. If I put it upside down, the Orbit is going to actually be upside down also. So instead of just having Orbit on here, I'm going to just go ahead and sand this off with a low grit sandpaper, paint the whole box anyways once I get all the modifications done so it all matches. But for this up here, for these 2 knockouts, I'm gonna have to put in a connector with a locking thing on the bottom and put a piece of conduit that goes into the ceiling once I mount it onto there. So to mount these things right here, you have to actually drill 2 holes in here that fit this thing in. So make sure you have all the drill bits and everything so you can do that project. Once we get it through the other side, we actually got to figure out a way to mount these fans right here. Once I get into there, I'll figure out how I have to drill or what I need to drill to get these things on to mount them. But what I'm going to be doing is these are going to be exhaust fans just to suck the heat out of there. For all these parts I'm using, I basically got everything from Amazon. So if you need any of this stuff, go ahead and check out the links down in the description. Just in case you're doing the same project where you're doing the exterior router and everything and Wi-Fi outside the house. So this is a router I'm using right here, the trusty AC 1900 dual band. I've been using the T-Mobile version of this, which I actually flashed and converted to an AC 68U. This is the newer AC 1900P version of it, which has a faster processor, but it uses the same firmware as the rest of them. I've got it all set up for the AI net that I'm using around my house. So this thing pretty much fits perfectly into here once I trim everything out, and then once we take these antennas off, we should be able to just connect them to the outside here, and this will be a perfect fit for this baby. So to make this thing work easier, you can actually pop this door off. It comes off pretty easily from the hinges right here, and then to cut this off, you could use like a saw blade or something and do it by hand. Use a drill maul to make it a little bit faster, but either way, it should be pretty easy to cut right through this. Once you do that, there is a little hole on the back, but so to save myself the trouble of sanding that spot right there, I'm actually going to just drill a hole and put one of these air vents right here anyways, so that would be perfect for that spot. I'll add a few more of these inside this enclosure because I want to be able to have a spot where they're sucking fresh air through the back of this or the bottom of this into that fan that I'm going to put on the door. So we want to make sure we have that ventilation airflow through here. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go ahead, do that sanding, drill my holes on the side for the antenna. I'm also going to be drilling the holes and everything for these guys just to get them to fit right and get all that into the door. So for the antennas, I'm going to basically do it out the side of here just to make it the easiest for me on here. And as far as the length of this cord that I bought, so I bought like a 6-inch extension, which is all the room I have just to go out the side or wherever. So what I did was I measured the distance on there, which was 85 millimeters apart, and I marked the spots on here for 85 millimeters to clear this little nub in the middle here, clear the lock. We got these holes drilled out right there. I test fitted the antenna right here where it's going to be the problem child with the lock right there, but everything fits perfect. The wires on the inside go good, so we have a pretty good connection and everything doing it this way. I'm not going to tighten it all down because I still have to paint everything before I reassemble this, but that's pretty good there. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill the back holes for the vents. So we drilled that thing out with an exact 1-inch hole, and this baby fits right into there perfectly. So I just need to clean some of the burrs off. This thing actually has little tabs once you put it in there that you could just tuck out, and it locks it in place. So that's pretty awesome there that we can do that. So yeah, that's gonna look really nice. I'm gonna do 2 more over here, which is gonna be basically the bottom of this enclosure when it's on the wall, and then we're gonna suck air to the top. All right, so I ended up drilling those 3 holes right there, but once I put it up against the wall, I noticed that there was a very little air gap on the back, so I ended up adding 2 more at the bottom just for airflow. And then over here I went ahead and put the nipples in on top for the wire or the conduit that's going into the ceiling down into there. So this is pretty much ready for paint now, so I'll go ahead and coat this thing with a coat of paint, and then we'll do the cover next. So for the cover, I looked on the inside and it looks like there's 2 molding marks that we use to center our 2 vents that we're gonna put. Remember, we're gonna be doing this upside down. So there's a little hole saw, 2-inch hole saw. Made quick work of this. Just clean up all the burrs right here and go ahead and test fit into there, and then do the second one. Yeah, those things snap in pretty well. There's little nubs on the back side right here that actually hold it in pretty good once you get the 2-inch hole exactly cut right there. So we'll go ahead and finish the second one, and we'll move on to painting this stuff. That random orbital sander, made quick work of that using a 60 grit sandpaper. I finished it off with a 420, so this thing's all ready to spray paint now. So I got done freshly painting this thing. I ended up just rolling it on and brushing all the edges instead of spraying it just to make it easier on myself, but pretty much got everything coated on here pretty well. Put the caps on here, painted those things. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is get the fans in here. So these fans came with little shrouds right here. That's the direction of the travel. So I'm going to basically take that shroud off, put it onto here, and screw it in and see if I could catch around the edge there. It fits perfectly on the round part of here, so if I get a screw in that kind of wedges this in there, it should hold. Alright, the fan install went pretty well. I was able to get those screws in there, wedge it in. I couldn't find any additional screws because these screws are a little bit too short to put the grill on, so I put it on this one side that might hit something. This side's right over the outlet, so it's going to be less likely to hit anything because I don't really have anything planned to put right over the outlet areas. I went ahead and put my extension cord onto the top outlet, as you can see there, but once we fold it in, it should be pretty good there for clearance. I went ahead, stuck this on here with some 3M tape, and then put one of my little wire management clips right here from one of my other projects or my other products where I didn't use this thing. So everything looks pretty good in here. As you can see, we wire managed everything, and we go ahead and test it. I just plugged it in right there for my USB just to see it run. So I've got it on high, and it's pretty much spinning and moving air, so this is perfect for our ventilation system in here. So the next thing I did, I went ahead, mounted the controller right here for the temperature, double-sided tape right to that spot, put that wire managed right here into that control. Then I ran this wire onto this side, so we got the USB. For the thermal trigger, I decided to mount the thermal probe or the temperature probe right over here. This is going to be basically the back side of the router once it goes in here, kind of like that. So basically, if the heat radiates off of this, it'll radiate off the top of here or the back of there, and it'll heat up that back side where the fan is on the front. So that way, we want to keep that trigger away from the fans because the fans are going to cool it down. We want it to be in the hottest position or the hottest spot that we think is going to be in the cabinet. Over here, I connected the wires just to see how well it fits. So once it goes in there, you can see the wires kind of push this thing and wedge it against this backside right here, and it holds it in too, so it won't fall out if we ever open the door when it's hanging on the wall. But that looks pretty good there. Alright, went ahead and attached the antennas with the extensions through the housing just to test fit it to see how it looks. So it looks pretty dang good right there. So this thing's basically going to be mounted like this up against the wall, and then we just kind of have the antennas coming out of the side of here. So that looks pretty dang good. So now that we got the box all ready to go, I'm gonna go ahead and take it outside, drill the holes and everything, and get this thing all mounted up, and then fish the new cables and everything I already ran out there off camera into the box and wire this baby up. So here's where all my server stuff is. I'm gonna go ahead and cut a hole right there to pull all the Cat 6 wire to near my router and my switches and everything over here. So that's where we're gonna try to pull from. Went ahead and put this ring right here, the low voltage ring, to keep the drywall and everything from falling all over the place. I put this box here on top of my equipment just to make sure, keep everything dust free. So I'm gonna go ahead and just vacuum everything out of here. So in order to pull that wire, I actually pulled it up here in my ceiling. I went behind this speaker, I went behind this recessed light, and I was able to see what was above it here, and actually drilled a hole from here into there, because there's actual firewall that they put right here that you could drill through just to separate the living room from the bedroom and everything. So I had to drill through there, fish the wire through, and get it onto the other side. So once I was able to fish my wire and my rod through that hole, I was able to get it over here. Then inside my server space right here, I actually drilled a hole in the ceiling, took pictures with my phone just to see what was up there with the light and everything so I could see. Actually, I have another inspection light that I put on the end of my rod when I was pushing it through to see where I was at. I was able to see it, use a magnet and pull it over and get the cables over to this. I was able to run 3 home runs back here, one for the extra camera, an extra cable for future, and then the one for the backhaul on the router. It was a big pain in the ass, but I was able to get it through the crawl space between the 1st and 2nd floor. When I was in the middle of doing that, I also pulled a wire through my garage ceiling, because the garage is on the other side of this closet right here, over and then out to near my garage where I have another AIMESH access point. So out here, as you can see, I have that connection right there. I went through the attic space, which I cut out on one of my first videos on this new house where I'm putting all my junk. I pulled it all the way through, pulled it over, and then I have another access plate right here that I had cut previously to do other electrical work and do my actual hydraulic lines for my lift right there. I have that access plate, and then I have another gang plate down there, so I was able to get above that ceiling, fish that wire across and into the closet. So on my previous project for doing the lights out here, I actually ran a power wire that I left right here already. And then I left my Cat 5 or Cat 6 wire right around this area too, right by this opening for this light. So I'm gonna go ahead and just mount the new box right here. So that way I can just fish that wire straight over and get it down into the hole. So what I'm gonna do is put that box right here, measure the holes right here, drill those out, and then slip those holes in before I drill into the wall to mount it. So before we get too far, we want to make sure we don't hit any beams. I think there's a beam right here because there's a screw, so I'm going to mount it right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to outline the 1-inch hole that I need to drill for the bigger conduit. Then once I drill this, stick that into there, I'm gonna drill the second hole to make sure I hit it. That one's a 3/4 inch hole. So next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this light. It's just compression fit up here with the little wings. So I'm gonna just pop it down. Go ahead, take a picture up there and I can see where the hole comes in. And then from there, I can kind of aim my rod to pull it over. So we'll be using this fiberglass rod here. This thing's come in handy so much for all the electrical work I do. If you guys need the same stuff or if you don't have one already, check out the links down in the description. It's like 15 bucks for this set, but it's paid for itself more than once. So as you can see, it's a pretty straight shot over to get to that hole. I'm gonna go get this thing up there. I put a little hook on the end so I can try to hook the hole and then grab it on the other end and pull it through. So there's that wire that I got for the electrical that I left up there from the last project. So I can pretty much turn that thing, straighten it out and kind of get it right to that hole over there and fish it through since it's a little bit stiffer. I went ahead and caulked up that extra hole I did. I put as much caulk around the edges right there in the hole as I could. So now I'm gonna go ahead and just screw this all back in and get to the next step, which is terminating these wires right here and then wiring up this outlet right here. I'm gonna kind of do that off camera since you guys seen me do this a million times. And then just terminating the Cat 6 is a big pain in the ass just because the Cat 6 is 23 gauge wire versus 24. So it's like a little bit harder to get into the plug and everything. All right, we were able to wire this thing up. As you can see, I used a 12 gauge wire on the side post. You wanna make sure you do that. And then you also make sure you have the right direction when you fold that thing over and tighten it down. But this is the most secure connection, especially on a 12 gauge wire. So we'll go ahead and put that back in. One of the things I also have is this little tip right here, which is designed for the screws on here. It's a flathead with like a kind of Phillips thing that fits right into the screw, but this gives you much better torque. It's a Milwaukee tool, but yeah, you want to do that when you're doing these wiring connections. So we go ahead, just turn this in here, fold that thing back, and then screw it in. All right, I was able to terminate these things with the B standard on both of them. So to test the wires, what I did was I actually just jumpered the two connections on the inside to make a continuous circuit out here. That way I don't have to run back and forth. So it looks like connection's good, hits all 8 wires. So we're good with this termination right here. So for my camera feed, I went ahead and just fished that Cat 6 wire over to here, down to this hole. And then I'm gonna eventually get it right up to here where I'm gonna mount the camera for my pool pump and pool equipment here so I can monitor that and see what's going on with that in case anything happens. We were able to terminate the camera over here. I'm testing it out now, but once I get it up there, I'm gonna go put a little piece of white board that I use on that soffit to hold the camera and mount it over here. I was able to take care of the camera feed, got everything up here installed, connected to the NVR, so we're good here. So we'll go back, finish the install over here with the router. So over here, finished labeling my Cat 6 cables right here with the feedback. After it's all tested, go ahead, get the router in, connect all the antennas, and get this all set up. So I got the antennas mounted and turned away from the wall just to send the signal out. So we'll go ahead and connect the inside of these right here to the actual router itself and put all the connections on the inside together. All right, got everything connected. As you can see, these fans are running right now. Right now it's just on the on mode, so everything's running like it should off the power from here. It is kind of tight in here, so you kind of got to do some wire management, trying to get everything to fit and this thing to stay in there. But it does fit once you close the door, but you just want to make sure you get the wire management done. We ended up getting it in here. I had the double-sided tape the power adapter onto the back of there so it would stay. I tucked all the extra wire from the USB and the cord right there on this side, and we just got it all sitting there. So once I close the door, it should sit pretty good. So pretty much that's it. As far as the fan control, right now it's on all the time, but you can set it to 84 degrees, 88, 92, and 96. So for now, I'm gonna leave it on the 84 degrees just to be on the safe side. And then I also have it set on high when it's on. Hey guys, thanks for watching all the way to the end of this video on doing this router upgrade right here, or the extension of my network out here to the patio. If you guys found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you need any of the products that I use in this video or anything I did, check out the links down in the description. I'll try to link everything I used and all the resources I used to do this. Remember guys, for all these different projects, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.